"How can you work here? This plane isn't for people like you," shouted the arrogant woman, drawing the attention of all passengers in the first-class cabin. She pointed her finger at the young flight attendant and continued raising her voice. "Call the captain immediately. You don't belong here. Do you understand me?" Her tone was so loud that even economy-class passengers were trying to understand what was happening. Children began to get scared. Elderly passengers looked at each other with concern. But this arrogant woman, Victoria Sterling, didn't care about any of this. Elena Rodriguez, 34 years old, apparently an ordinary flight attendant. With her simple uniform, humble behavior, and sincere communication with passengers, she seemed no different from other cabin crew. Until that moment, she continued to serve patiently with a smile. She had no idea that this angry woman in front of her was about to make the biggest mistake of her life, because Elena Rodriguez was actually the founder and CEO of the airline company that owned this aircraft. Victoria Sterling had no idea she was about to make the biggest mistake of her life. 24 hours later, the tables would completely turn. Victoria would be job hunting, while Elena would have revealed her true identity. But this was just the beginning. The transformation that would occur would be so significant that the entire aviation industry would be talking about this incident. If you've ever been unjustly humiliated, or if you want to see justice prevail against arrogance, you need to watch every second of this story. The justice scene you'll see in this story will make you give a standing ovation and provide lessons applicable to real life. Hit the subscribe button immediately and write which city you're watching from in the comments, because the reversal that's about to happen is incredible. After this story went viral, real changes began in the aviation industry.
Elena Rodriguez's story was much more than a classic success story. After losing her parents in a traffic accident at age 10, she was adopted by her uncle and aunt. She went through very difficult times, both suffering from the pain of her family's absence and trying to adapt to her new family. During high school, Elena's biggest dream was to become a pilot. But their financial situation wasn't sufficient to cover pilot training costs. So at 18, right after graduating high school, she applied for a flight attendant position at a small airline company. In her first interview, when asked, "Why do you want to do this job?" her answer still echoed in her memory. "Because the sky feels like my home. My family is in the sky, and I want to be close to them." She was very excited on her first flight. Her hands were trembling. She couldn't speak when talking to passengers. But the experienced cabin manager, Aunt Fatma, told her, "My dear, every passenger actually has a story. Some are on business trips, some are going to their hometown, some will reunite with their loved ones. You be a beautiful memory in their journey." These words became Elena's life philosophy. She approached every passenger as if they had their own story, showing them not just service, but also care and love. Thanks to this approach, she received very few complaints and was highly appreciated instead. She studied business at university at night and flew during the day. While her friends went out to have fun, Elena studied in the library. Her goal was clear. One day, she would establish her own airline company. This wasn't just a financial goal. She wanted to create a company where aviation industry employees could work in better conditions and passengers could receive higher quality service. In her final year at university, she did a financial analysis of airline companies for a project. She discovered that the biggest problems in the sector at that time were high employee turnover, increasing passenger complaints, and declining service quality. "I wish I could bring a different perspective to this industry," she constantly thought. When she graduated from university at 23, she had 5 years of flight attendant experience and a business degree. But most importantly, she had 50,000 lira in savings, money she had saved by setting aside a portion from each salary and never making luxury purchases. While her friends said, "Buy a car with this money, buy a house," Elena was making a very different plan. 15 years ago, with that 50,000 lira, she bought a small charter aircraft company with a partner. It was just a small fleet of 2 aircraft, but it was a big start for Elena. When serving her first customers, she worked as both pilot assistant, flight attendant, and customer representative. The first year was very difficult. Sometimes they couldn't find customers for months. Sometimes planes broke down and repair costs arose. Elena's partner said, "This business won't work. Let's sell and get rid of it," and quit. When Elena was left alone, she almost gave up. But one day, an elderly customer told her, "My dear, everyone who experiences your service becomes happy. Don't quit this job. You're different." She continued with this encouragement. She treated every customer like a family member, didn't forget their special days, and sent birthday congratulations. Thanks to this approach, customer loyalty was very high. Customers who were satisfied with the charter service also brought their friends. Within 5 years, the company had grown to a fleet of 15 aircraft. Elena was now not just a founder, but also an experienced CEO. She knew the name of everyone working in the company, followed their family situations, and took individual care of them. This is why employee turnover was very low and employee satisfaction was very high. But Elena's real dream was bigger. She started organizing domestic flights by forming a partnership with one of Turkey's largest airline companies. This way, she entered normal passenger transportation, and that's when real success began to come. Currently, Elena's company had a fleet of 50 aircraft, organized more than 100 flights daily, and had over 2,000 employees. Her net worth exceeded $50 million. She made it onto Forbes Turkey's most successful entrepreneurs under 40 list. She gave interviews on television and organized conferences at universities. But Elena's most striking feature was that despite her success, she had never changed. She still worked as a flight attendant twice a week on the route where she first started working. The best way to maintain direct contact with customers and understand what they think, she said. Her employees initially found this situation strange, but now they respected Elena even more.
Victoria Sterling, 42 years old, was a wealthy woman living off her husband's inheritance. But her story was also more complex than it seemed. She was actually born into a middle-class family. Her father was a small business owner. Her mother was a teacher. In her youth, she had lived a very modest life. Victoria's life completely changed when she married wealthy businessman Richard Sterling at age 25. Richard owned a real estate empire inherited from his father. Victoria was a beautiful, ambitious, and intelligent marketing specialist at that time. Their meeting was also interesting. Victoria, who started working at Richard's company, quickly caught his attention. Victoria was very happy in the first years. Luxury houses, expensive cars, designer clothes, exotic vacations. She was living the life she had always dreamed of. Richard was also very devoted to his wife, buying her everything she wanted, never restricting her in anything. But over time, Victoria's character began to change. The comfort that wealth provided gave her a feeling of being privileged. While she used to be a very kind and understanding woman, she gradually became arrogant and intolerant. Especially her attitudes toward people working in the service industry became harsh. Initially, Richard noticed this situation and warned Victoria. "Darling, you used to be much kinder. Why have you changed?" he said. But Victoria replied, "I haven't changed. I just deserve respect." Richard Sterling died of a heart attack 5 years ago. A great void formed in Victoria's life. But she had no financial problems. Richard had left all his assets to Victoria. After her husband's death, Victoria became even more arrogant. Now there was no one around her to warn her or tell her the truth. Her society friends didn't criticize her because they were afraid of her money and harsh character. This situation further aggravated Victoria's ego problem. Victoria's daily routine was very monotonous. She exercised with a personal trainer in the mornings, went to beauty salons at noon, and attended society events in the evenings. She had no real hobby, goal, or purpose. The only meaning of her life was to live in luxury and show people around her how rich she was. Among her friends, she was called Queen Victoria, of course, to her face, because everyone was afraid of her money and harsh character. Victoria also took great pleasure from this mixture of fear and respect. She thought she was special and privileged. Her relationships with people working in the service industry were a complete disaster. In restaurants, with waiters, and hotels, with cleaning staff, with taxi drivers, with security personnel at the airport, she looked down on all of them and scolded them. She acted with the mentality, I'm paying money, they'll do whatever I want. Behind these behaviors was actually great insecurity. Victoria knew deep down that her value came only from her money. She had no real talents, skills, or achievements. That's why she constantly felt the need to show herself superior to other people. Especially during air travel, these behaviors reached their peak. She thought her first-class ticket gave her unlimited rights. From check-in to passing through security, in the waiting lounge, and on the plane, she would pressure staff at every stage. In the last year, Victoria's behavior had become completely out of control. Her husband's absence, feelings of loneliness, and fear of aging made her even more aggressive. She was now getting disturbed by the smallest things, constantly complaining, blaming everyone around her. That's why when she set out for the Istanbul-New York flight that day, her mood was very bad. Her hair didn't turn out as she wanted in the morning. She didn't like the service at breakfast. She experienced traffic on the way to the airport. All this tension would explode when she encountered Elena on the plane.
That day, October 15th, Monday, there was intense activity at Istanbul Airport. From the morning hours, thousands of passengers were preparing to fly to different destinations. The weather was perfect, wind was calm, visibility was very good, ideal conditions for flights. Elena's company's Istanbul-New York flight was one of the day's most popular flights. It would take off at 14:30 in the afternoon and arrive in New York at 18:45, local time. An 8-hour-long journey, wide-body aircraft with 320 passenger capacity. There were 16 seats in the first-class cabin. Each seat was wide, comfortable, and could be converted into a bed. There were large distances between seats. Passengers could relax without disturbing each other. The cabin lighting was soft. The ambiance was peaceful. The passenger profile in first class that day was quite mixed. There were 2 businessmen, one Turkish, one American. They would go to an important meeting in New York. There was an elderly couple. They were going to visit their son. A young mother was going on vacation with her child. And of course, Victoria Sterling was there too, traveling alone. Elena wasn't supposed to fly that day. She had important meetings in the office. She was working on new route plans. But in the morning, young flight attendant Zeynep got sick and had to go to the doctor. Cabin manager Aish called Elena. "Boss, we're short one staff member today. What should we do?" Elena said without hesitation, "I'll come." Aisha was surprised. "But boss, you have important meetings today." Elena laughed. "Meetings can be postponed, but we can't let our passengers down. I'm coming right away." This behavior perfectly summarized Elena's character. Money, status, position, none of these were more important than customer satisfaction for her. Despite being the company owner, she still loved working in the field and maintaining direct contact with passengers. When Elena arrived at the airport, the team was very surprised. Security, check-in, baggage staff, everyone knew and respected Elena. But Elena was very friendly with everyone. She asked the security guard, "How are you, Brother Mehmet? Are the children okay?" and wondered to check-in Officer Gill, "Did that course you mentioned last time start?" Pilot Captain Okan was very happy when he learned Elena would be on the flight.
He had been working for Elena's company for 10 years, seeing her both boss and friend. "Elena, if you're here today, the flight will go very well," he said. Cabin manager Aish was a bit worried. Passengers who didn't know Elena would be on the flight would think she was an ordinary flight attendant. "Boss, what should we do if we have problems?" she asked. Elena smiled. "Don't do anything. I'm also an employee like you today." When passenger boarding began, Elena had put on her uniform and taken position like other flight attendants. Economy class passengers boarded first, then business class, and finally first class passengers came. Victoria Sterling was one of the last to board. The problems she experienced at the airport had really angered her. Her private lounge reservation was canceled. There was a problem with her luggage. Extra control was done when passing through security. All these situations increased Victoria's anger. When she entered the cabin, the atmosphere tensed. While other passengers were calm and happy, Victoria's energy was negative. Her expensive perfume, loud-talking, complaining attitude, everyone understood she was different. When Elena greeted Victoria, she instinctively felt she needed to be careful. Based on her experience, she anticipated she might have problems with this type of passenger. But Elena's approach was always the same: patience, understanding, and professionalism. 5 minutes later, the first conflict between the two characters would begin. No one knew that this conflict would be a historic turning point in the aviation industry.
That day, October 15, Monday, there was intense activity at Istanbul Airport. From the morning hours, thousands of passengers were preparing to fly to different destinations. The weather was perfect, wind was calm, visibility was very good, ideal conditions for flights. Elena's company's Istanbul-New York flight was one of the day's most popular flights. It would take off at 14:30 in the afternoon and arrive in New York at 18:45 local time. An 8-hour-long journey. Wide-body aircraft with 320 passenger capacity. There were 16 seats in the first-class cabin. Each seat was wide, comfortable, and could be converted into a bed. There were large distances between seats. Passengers could relax without disturbing each other. The cabin lighting was soft. The ambiance was peaceful. The passenger profile in first class that day was quite mixed. There were 2 businessmen, one Turkish, one American. They would go to an important meeting in New York. There was an elderly couple. They were going to visit their son. A young mother was going on vacation with her child. And, of course, Victoria Sterling was there too, traveling alone. Elena wasn't supposed to fly that day. She had important meetings in the office. She was working on new route plans. But in the morning, young flight attendant Zeynep got sick and had to go to the doctor. Cabin manager Aviation called Elena. "Boss, we're short one staff member today. What should we do?" Elena said without hesitation, "I'll come." Aviation was surprised. "But boss, you have important meetings today." Elena laughed. "Meetings can be postponed, but we can't let our passengers down. I'm coming right away." This behavior perfectly summarized Elena's character. Money, status, position, none of these were more important than customer satisfaction for her. Despite being the company owner, she still loved working in the field and maintaining direct contact with passengers. When Elena arrived at the airport, the team was very surprised. Security, check-in, baggage staff, everyone knew and respected Elena. But Elena was very friendly with everyone. She asked the security guard, "How are you, Brother Mehmet? Are the children okay?" And wondered to check-in officer Gul, "Did that course you mentioned last time start?" Pilot Captain Okan was very happy when he learned Elena would be on the flight. He had been working for Elena's company for 10 years, seeing her as both boss and friend. "Elena, if you're here today, the flight will go very well," he said. Cabin manager Aviation was a bit worried.
Passengers who didn't know Elena would be on the flight would think she was an ordinary flight attendant. "Boss, what should we do if we have problems?" she asked. Elena smiled. "Don't do anything. I'm also an employee like you today." When passenger boarding began, Elena had put on her uniform and taken position like other flight attendants. Economy class passengers boarded first, then business class, and finally first class passengers came. Victoria Sterling was one of the last to board. The problems she experienced at the airport really angered her. Her private lounge reservation was canceled. There was a problem with her luggage. Extra control was done when passing through security. All these situations increased Victoria's anger. When she entered the cabin, the atmosphere tensed. While other passengers were calm and happy, Victoria's energy was negative. Her expensive perfume, loud talking, complaining attitude, everyone understood she was different. When Elena greeted Victoria, she instinctively felt she needed to be careful. Based on her experience, she anticipated she might have problems with this type of passenger. But Elena's approach was always the same: patience, understanding, and professionalism. 5 minutes later, the first conflict between the two characters would begin. No one knew that this conflict would be a historic turning point in the aviation industry. When Victoria Sterling entered the first-class cabin, the atmosphere immediately changed. Her steps were harsh, her looks sharp, her body language tense, as if she was preparing for war. She had chosen the best seat, 1A, and was complaining even while putting her bag in the overhead compartment. "Why is this overhead compartment so small? My bag barely fit." Elena approached professionally. She had a sincere smile on her face. Her voice was warm and welcoming. "Good flight, madam. Welcome. How can I help you? Shall I bring you something to drink?" Victoria didn't even lift her head from her phone. Her tone was so rude and spiteful that nearby passengers became uncomfortable. "Bring the drink menu. Hurry. Up. I want champagne before takeoff, and make it cold. Last time they brought it lukewarm." Elena patiently took the drink menu and placed it in front of Victoria. "Of course, madam. Here's our menu. Which brand do you prefer?" Victoria quickly glanced at the menu and frowned. The expression on her face was as if she smelled something bad. "What kind of selection is this? Both few varieties and the brands I want aren't available. Can you go to the galley and find something special? I'm a first-class passenger. I can't settle for standard things." While saying these words, her voice was so loud that all the other passengers in the cabin turned to look. While the elderly couple looked with concern, the young mother took a protective position with her child. The two businessmen began to follow the situation with curiosity. Elena calmly replied, "Of course, madam. If you describe what you want, I'll check the galley and bring it if we have it. Which brand are you looking for?" Victoria's reaction was much harsher than expected. "Are you asking me to describe it? I'm a passenger here. You're a flight attendant. Your job is to serve what is available. Mine is to choose. Do you understand? It's that simple." With these words, Victoria stood up. Since she was taller than Elena, she was looking down from above, trying to create intimidation. She pointed her finger at Elena's face, practically scolding her. Elena still had a kind smile on her face, but she felt a growing sadness inside. She was unfortunately used to this type of behavior, both from her own experience and from stories she heard from her employees. But she thought the same thing every time. Why do these people behave like this? Do they treat their own families like this too?
About 30 minutes had passed after takeoff. The plane was now at cruising altitude, moving peacefully. Other passengers had relaxed, reading books, listening to music, or preparing to sleep. But Victoria's complaints never stopped. "Why is this towel lukewarm? It should be hot. The food came cold. Can you heat it? The blanket is too thin. Do you have a thicker one? The air conditioning is too strong. Can you adjust it? The seat in front is too noisy. Can I change my seat? Every 5 minutes she was calling Elena, finding a new complaint. Elena came running with a smile every time, trying to solve the problem. But Victoria wasn't satisfied with any solution. Cabin manager Aisha had noticed the situation. She came to Elena. "Elena, this passenger seems very problematic. Let me take over. You rest." Elena shook her head. "No, Sister Aisha, it's no problem. Maybe she's really uncomfortable. Let me help." But Aisha's concern was justified, because Victoria's behavior was getting increasingly out of control. She was no longer just complaining, but also making condescending remarks to Elena. "Are you really suitable for this job? How old are you? You look very young. Did you get training for this job? Why are you so slow?" These questions hurt Elena's feelings, but she didn't let it show. Because Elena knew that Victoria's real problem was with herself. Such people usually disturbed others because they were unhappy with their own lives.
The surrounding passengers were now seriously disturbed by Victoria's behavior. The elderly couple, Ahmet and Mariam Bey, were whispering to each other. "May God give that girl patience," said Mariam Hanum. "How patient, how kind she is. May our children be so kind too." Ahmet Bey was reacting more harshly. "This woman's behavior is not right at all. Being wealthy doesn't give you the right to behave like this. You can't be this rude." The young mother from business class was telling her 6-year-old son, John, "John, do you see how that woman is talking? You will never talk like that. People must be respected. Morality cannot be bought with money." Little John asked curiously, "Mom, why is that aunt angry?" The mother replied thoughtfully, "I don't know, son. Maybe she's experiencing something sad, but that's not a reason to treat others badly." One of the two businessmen, American John Parker, was saying to his Turkish partner Kemal Bey in English, "This is embarrassing. How can someone treat service staff like this?" Kemal Bey replied, "Unfortunately, some people think money gives them the right to be rude. But look at that flight attendant. Such professionalism and patience." In the galley, kitchen area, other flight attendants were gathering to discuss the situation. Young flight attendant Zeynep, who had recovered from her illness and came at the last minute, was very upset. "Sister Elena is a very good person. Why are they treating her like this? I wish it had been me. I can't stand such behavior." Galley attendant Mehmet was more experienced. "I've been doing this job for 20 years. I see such passengers often. But I'm seeing someone as patient as Elena for the first time. She's truly a special person." Cabin manager Aisha was most worried. "Elena is very well-intentioned, but this woman seems like she's going to push the limits further. If the situation gets worse, I may need to talk to the captain." No one knew that Elena's patience had a special reason. Because Elena had been working in this business for years and understood the psychology behind such behavior very well. People like Victoria were actually very unhappy people, and they reflected this unhappiness onto others.
Victoria had very confused thoughts in her head at that moment. Actually, she saw that Elena was behaving very professionally, but this made her even angrier. Because Victoria was used to people being afraid of her. Why doesn't this girl react at all? Why does she do everything I want? Does she see herself as so worthless? She thought. Actually, Victoria's real problem was the fear of losing control. She could control very few things in her life. Her husband was dead, she had no real friends, she had no meaningful job or hobby. That's why she tried to use the rare situations she could control to the fullest. Service sector employees gave her a sense of control. She acted with the mentality, I'm paying money, so they have to listen to me. But actually, these behaviors didn't fill her inner emptiness. They just gave her a temporary sense of power. The flight had lasted 2 hours. Elena was constantly running to Victoria's requests and also trying to take care of other passengers. She had brought blankets to the elderly couple, given toys to the little child, and met the special requests of the businessmen. But the demands from Victoria never stopped. "This coffee is too bitter. Do you have sugar? My seat won't recline. Can you call a technician? There's too much noise in the cabin. Can you quiet it down? The internet connection is slow. Isn't there a faster one?" With each demand, Victoria's tone became harsher. Elena continued to respond with the same patience and kindness. But now, other passengers were starting to get uncomfortable with the situation. American businessman John Parker was now looking directly at Victoria, making it clear he disapproved. The elderly couple looked at Elena with concern, trying to support her. The young mother was trying to protect her child from this environment. As Elena ran to each new request, she thought in her mind, "What does this woman really want? Just service, or to humiliate me? Maybe she's really going through difficult days. Let me be a bit more patient." This thought made Elena even more patient, because that was Elena's life philosophy. Everyone experiences difficult moments. Maybe that person is going through a hard time right now. But Victoria's next move would test Elena's patience and the entire cabin's tranquility. Because Victoria was about to make a very big mistake about Elena's identity. When the flight entered its third hour, Victoria had completely lost control. Elena's patiently fulfilling every request was making her even angrier. She was thinking, "Why doesn't this girl react at all? Doesn't she take me seriously?" Victoria stood up and waited for Elena to come. When Elena approached with a small tray in her hand, Victoria spoke in a very harsh tone. "Wait a minute. Who do you think you are? I'm a first-class passenger here. You're just a flight attendant. Your job is to serve me, not to give me lessons." Elena was surprised. She hadn't given any lessons. She was just trying to serve kindly. "Excuse me, there seems to be a misunderstanding. How did you think I was giving you lessons?" Victoria's answer upset all the balances in the cabin. "How are you working here? This plane isn't for people like you. Call the captain immediately. You don't belong here. Do you understand me?" These words were said so loudly that even economy-class passengers were trying to understand what was happening. The silence in the cabin was like ice. Everyone held their breath, waiting for Victoria's next move. Elena took a deep breath. She had encountered such situations before, but rarely experienced such harsh ones. She replied in a calm voice, "Ma'am, if you're not satisfied with our service, you can speak with our cabin manager. But please, speak respectfully." Victoria got even angrier at this response. "Respect? Are you expecting respect from me? Do you know who I am? I can get you fired from this company."
At this point, some passengers in the cabin began recording the situation with their cell phones. Especially the young mother, while protecting her child, was also recording Victoria's behavior. What Victoria didn't realize was that dozens of people were already sharing these moments on social media. The hashtags were "Flight Attendant Bullying," "Injustice on Flight," "Respect Matters," and "Aviation Bullying." The videos were starting to spread rapidly. People were condemning Victoria's behavior and appreciating Elena's patience. Comments were like, "This woman's behavior is shameful. The flight attendant is very patient. Well done. Money can't buy humanity lessons. We shouldn't support such bullies." Victoria was unaware of any of this. She was only focused on humiliating Elena more. When Victoria's anger reached its peak, she made her biggest mistake. She took her phone out of her bag and called the airline company's customer service. Yes, while flying, she was calling the airline company she was on to complain. "Hello? I want to speak with the manager of this airline company. There's an urgent situation." Victoria was shouting on the phone while everyone in the cabin listened carefully. The customer representative on the phone asked, "What topic would you like to discuss?"
Your flight attendant is being disrespectful to passengers. I want her fired immediately. This Elena Rodriguez person is very disrespectful and inadequate." When Elena heard these words, a small smile appeared on her face, because Victoria had fallen right into her trap. Since Elena founded the company, she had given special instructions to the customer service department. "If someone complains about me, transfer them directly to me." The manager on the phone, who was actually Elena's closest employee, was surprised. "Madam, are you talking about Elena Rodriguez? Please wait a moment." While Victoria waited, Elena calmly approached and said to Victoria, "Madam, I think there is a misunderstanding." "What misunderstanding? You'll be quiet. I'm talking to the manager." She turned to the phone. "Hello? I'm still waiting. Fire this Elena person immediately." The manager on the phone, Murat Bey, Elena's right hand, was in a very difficult situation. He couldn't reveal Elena's identity because Elena would do it herself, but he didn't know how to resolve this situation either. "Madam," said Murat Bey carefully, "I've received your complaint about Elena Rodriguez. Would it be possible for you to speak with her? You can resolve the situation directly with her." Victoria got even angrier when she heard this suggestion. "I don't want to talk to her. Your job is to punish her. I'm a first-class passenger. I'll get what I want." At this point, Elena asked Victoria the phone. "If you allow me, let me talk to the manager. Maybe I can clarify the situation." Victoria initially didn't want to, but then said, "Take it. You explain yourself, too," and handed over the phone. When Elena took the phone, she spoke to Murat Bey like this. "Murat Bey, this is Elena. I am currently on a flight, and a passenger is complaining. I'll handle the situation, don't worry." Murat Bey was relieved. "Elena Hanım, what do you want me to do?" "Nothing for now. I'll resolve the situation. Thank you." Elena hung up and gave the phone back to Victoria. Victoria asked in confusion, "What did you discuss with the manager? What did he say?" Elena replied with a smile, "We discussed the situation. Everything will become clear soon."
Other passengers in the cabin were now following the situation very closely. Everyone was wondering how Elena could remain so calm. Also, Elena's way of talking to the manager had caught attention. Elderly Ahmet Bey whispered to his wife Meryem Hanım, "This girl is very different. Do you see how calm she is? It's like she's controlling everything." American businessman John Parker also found the situation strange. He said to his Turkish partner Kemal Bey in English, "There's something different about this flight attendant. The way she handled that phone call." The young mother was telling her child, "Can, did you see that, sister? How patient and kind she is. You be like that too, okay?" Elena was experiencing very mixed emotions at that moment. On one hand, she was saddened by Victoria's behavior. On the other hand, she was thinking about how she could turn this situation into an educational experience. These thoughts were going through her mind. This woman really doesn't know who I am. But if I reveal myself, she'll only apologize because of my money. That's not the real lesson she needs to learn. She needs to learn that she should show respect to every person. Elena was very experienced because she had been dealing with such situations for years. She constantly heard such stories from her employees. Last month, a flight attendant wanted to quit because of a similar situation. Elena had said then, "Such people exist everywhere. We can't change them, but we can control how we react to them." Now Elena was testing her own theory. Without revealing her identity to Victoria, she was trying to change her just with a human approach. After the phone conversation, Victoria became even more aggressive. Elena's calm attitude was making her even angrier. She stood up and stood right in front of Elena. "What are you making yourself out to be? You're a flight attendant. Do you think you're more important than me on this plane?" When Elena heard these words, she realized it was time to stop being silent, because Victoria was not only insulting her, but also degrading all aviation personnel. This situation had gone beyond being a personal problem and turned into a systematic issue. "Madam," Elena said in a calm but determined voice, "I think there's a misunderstanding between us. You haven't introduced yourself. I'm Elena Rodriguez." Victoria remained indifferent to these words. "You don't need to know who I am. I'm just a flight attendant. I'm a first-class passenger. It's that simple."
Elena smiled. Actually, it's not that simple, because just then cabin manager Aisha came to Elena's side. She asked worriedly, "Elena, is there a problem?" Victoria immediately turned to Aisha. "Yes, there's a big problem. This Elena flight attendant's attitude is very bad. Replace her." Aisha looked at Elena and said, "Madame, Elena is our most experienced and respected employee. If there's a problem—" "Experienced?" Victoria laughed. "How experienced can she be at this age? How old is this girl?" This question was the key to the answer that would change everything. When Elena heard Victoria's last question, she realized she could no longer wait, because Victoria was being disrespectful not only to her, but to all personnel. She needed to put an end to this situation. "Madame," Elena said in a calm but determined voice, "you wondered about my age. I'm 34 years old, and I've been working in this sector for 16 years. Victoria laughed mockingly. 16 years? Wow, very experienced indeed. But you're still a flight attendant. I'm a passenger." Elena took out her cell phone and showed it to Victoria. On the phone, she opened her company's official Instagram account. In the profile photo was Elena's picture, and underneath it read, "Elena Rodriguez, founder and CEO." Victoria first looked at the photo, then at Elena, then at the photo again. Her eyes widened, her mouth fell open. This must be a joke," she stammered. Elena calmly continued, "It's not a joke. I founded this airline company 15 years ago. We currently have a fleet of 50 aircraft and organize more than 100 flights daily." All the passengers in the cabin heard these words. The elderly couple looked at each other in amazement. American businessman John Parker muttered, "Incredible." The young mother told her child, "Can, did you see? That aunt is actually the boss of the pilots." The expression on Victoria's face had completely changed. Arrogance and anger gave way to shock and fear. I didn't know. This isn't possible." After Elena saw Victoria's shock, she decided to give a more detailed explanation. "Victoria Hanem, because your name is Victoria Sterling, isn't it? Let me tell you the truth. I founded this company with 50,000 lira capital. When I bought my first plane, I was pilot assistant, flight attendant, and cleaning staff all at once." Victoria still couldn't speak. Elena continued, "I worked every day for 15 years. I had no nights, no sleep, because I had a dream to establish an airline company that respects its employees and treats passengers like family members." Cabin manager Aisha's eyes filled with tears when she heard these words, because she knew Elena's story and everyone knew how much respect she had for her. Elena continued, "This company is now worth $200 million, but I still work as a flight attendant twice a week. Do you know why?" Victoria shook her head, couldn't speak.
"Because I want to understand what my employees experience. I want to learn what our passengers really think, and unfortunately, I encounter passengers like you." Victoria could no longer stand. She collapsed into her seat. Her hands were shaking. Her tone had completely changed. I really didn't know. I'm sorry, very sorry. Elena calmly replied. Victoria Hanum, you don't need to apologize. Because the real problem isn't that you didn't know who I am. Victoria asked in confusion. What do you mean? The real problem is that you're apologizing when you learn I am the company owner. But I should have received the same respect even if I were an ordinary flight attendant. These words deeply affected Victoria. Elena continued. Sister Aisha here has been doing this job for 20 years. She raised 3 children, supported her home. Zainab is 22 years old, doing this job while studying at university. Brother Mustafa has been working in the galley for 15 years. He loves his job very much. As Elena introduced each employee in the cabin one by one, Victoria seemed to shrink more and more. They're all valuable people. They all deserve respect, not because I have money, but because they are human beings. Meanwhile, the real bomb exploded on social media. The Elena Rodriguez hashtag had entered world trends. People were sharing Elena's story, condemning Victoria's behavior. Some tweets were like, "Respect to Elena Rodriguez, who still works in the field despite being a CEO. This is real leadership. Victoria Sterling should be ashamed. Money can't buy your character. Elena Rodriguez should be an example to all CEOs. This is humility. This video should be watched worldwide. Respect and courtesy have no price." Major news channels like CNN International, BBC, Reuters had made the topic headlines. News was being published with titles like Turkish CEO's Lesson in Humility goes viral. Victoria's sincere remorse. Victoria was experiencing a complete breakdown at that moment. She was thinking not only about Elena, but about all the wrongs in her life. What have I done? How many people have I hurt? What would my husband say if he were alive? Elena felt sorry for Victoria when she saw her condition. Because that was Elena's character. She could show compassion to everyone, even in the worst situations. Victoria Hanum, I'm not angry with you. Because you didn't behave badly on purpose. You just believed in wrong teachings. What wrong teachings? Victoria asked through tears. That morality can be bought with money. That respect can be earned with status. That you should judge people by their professions. But none of these are true. Elena crouched beside the seat, speaking at eye level with Victoria. You know, I used to think like you too. When I was studying at university, I used to say I was dreaming to teachers. Then, life taught me the realities. What kind of realities? Victoria asked curiously. That the greatest wealth is not money, but inner peace. That the greatest success is not title, but touching people. And that the greatest power is not dominance, but love. Reaction of other passengers. Other passengers in the cabin were watching this scene in great silence. Everyone was amazed by Elena's maturity. Despite being subjected to such great injustice, she still showed understanding toward Victoria. Elderly Mariam Hanum whispered to her husband Ahmad Bey, "Did you see? This is real leadership. Power doesn't corrupt people. It makes noble people even more noble." American businessman John Parker said to his Turkish partner, "I have never seen such grace under pressure. This woman is a true leader." The young mother was teaching her child, Jan, did you see? That sister is very strong, but being strong doesn't mean crushing others. It means lifting others up." Elena stood up and began speaking to address everyone in the cabin. "Dear passengers, today you all witnessed a situation. This situation is not just an incident between me and Victoria Hanum. This is a problem we constantly encounter in our daily lives." Everyone was listening to Elena carefully. We all sometimes judge others. We judge by appearance, by job, by clothing, but we forget that every person has a story. Elena looked at Victoria. Victoria Hanum also has a story. Maybe she's going through difficult days. Maybe she's lonely. Maybe she can't express her unhappiness in another way. Victoria had bowed her head, tears streaming from her eyes. But what's important is learning from our mistakes. I make mistakes too. You make mistakes too. What's important is how we learn from these mistakes.
Victoria stood up and stood in front of Elena. Her voice trembled. Elena Hanum, I don't know what to say. This is the biggest mistake I made in my entire life.
I owe an apology not only to you but to everyone I hurt up to this day. Elena took Victoria's hand. Victoria Hanım, you already taken the most important step. You realized your mistake. Now what we need to do is think about how to learn from this mistake. Victoria asked with hopeful eyes. What should I do? First, you should forgive yourself. Then, from today on, you should approach every person with respect, not just with words, but with your heart. Elena continued. And most importantly, you should share this experience with others, because there are many people who think like you. You can teach them this lesson too. Elena thought for a moment, then made such an offer to Victoria. Victoria Hanım, if you want, I can make you an offer. Victoria asked curiously, what kind of offer? We can open a position for you in our company. You can work in the customer experience department. Your job will be to listen to and solve passengers' complaints. This way, you can both forgive yourself and help others. Everyone in the cabin was surprised when they heard this offer. Elena was offering a job to someone who had humiliated her so much. Victoria asked in amazement, Are you really offering me a job? Yes, because you now know how wrong these behaviors are. Who could understand bullying passengers better? Victoria replied through tears, I don't deserve this. Elena smiled. Human love is like that, Victoria Hanım. It's not about deserving or not deserving. We all deserve a second chance. Emotional moments of the cabin crew. The cabin crew watching this scene was also very moved. Cabin manager Ayşe's eyes had filled with tears. Elena, you are truly very special. To show such magnanimity, this woman treated you so badly, but you... Elena interrupted Ayşe. Sister Ayşe, we encounter thousands of people every day while flying. Each has a different story. Sometimes we catch them on their bad days. Our job is not to judge, but to try to understand. Young flight attendant Zeynep asked, But, Sister Elena, what if these behaviors continue? Elena replied thoughtfully, Zeynep, change takes time. But what you saw here today is real. People can change. We must give them this opportunity too.
When the plane landed in New York, a large crowd was waiting for Elena at the terminal. Thanks to the video that went viral on social media, hundreds of people had come to see Elena. Victoria walked silently beside Elena. She didn't speak until the terminal exit. Before leaving Elena, she said one last time, Elena Hanım, I will change my life. I promise you. Elena held Victoria's hands. Victoria Hanım, promise yourself, not me, because real change must come from within. Victoria nodded. You're right. From today on, I will be a different person. After they parted, Victoria went to her hotel but couldn't sleep. She thought about Elena's words all night. She cried until morning, questioning her own behavior. Victoria's great change, first 24 hours. When Victoria woke up the next morning, she was like a different person. The first thing she did was thank the cleaning staff for preparing the room so beautifully. You worked very carefully. Cleaning staff Maria was surprised. She had been doing this job for 10 years and had never received such thanks. At breakfast, she treated the waiter kindly. Please don't rush. I have time. You're providing a very nice service. Waiter James was surprised by this behavior because last night he heard from the reception that Victoria was a very difficult customer. While walking in Manhattan that day, Victoria looked at every service personnel she saw with different eyes. To the taxi driver, thank you. You drove very safely. To the cashier, thank you for your help. Good work. By evening, Victoria wrote an email to Elena. Dear Elena, today I opened a different page in my life. I tried to show respect to every person I encountered. You can't imagine what a beautiful feeling it is. The happiness I saw on people's faces made me happy too. I'm taking your job offer seriously and want to accept it. Can I meet with you when I return to Istanbul? With respect, Victoria Sterling.
Changes in Elena's company. When Elena returned to Istanbul, she decided to make major changes in her company. First, she called all personnel to a meeting. Friends, the incident we experienced on the last flight taught us all a lot. From now on, we're starting the Mutual Respect program in our company. The details of the program were as follows. Staff training. All employees would receive psychological training on how to deal with difficult passengers. Passenger information. The importance of mutual respect would be explained to passengers on every flight. Complaint system. A special system would be established for passengers who treat personnel badly. Reward system. Passengers who treat personnel well would be appreciated. Victoria Project. Using Victoria's experience, a program to change other bullying passengers would be started.
Elena'nın story created major effects not only in her own company but throughout the aviation industry. The CEO of Turkish Airlines called Elena. Elena Hanım, we're taking your approach as an example. We want to start a similar program in our company too. Pegasus Airlines general manager. This incident became a turning point for our industry. We're now evaluating passenger-personnel relationships differently. Istanbul Airport operator. We're also starting a respect campaign at our airport. Elena Hanım's experience is very valuable. International aviation magazines had made Elena's story their cover. Aviation Week. How one CEO changed aviation industry. Airline business. Lesson in leadership. Elena Rodriguez story. Flight Global. Turkish CEO's viral moment sparks industry change.
When Victoria returned to Istanbul, her meeting with Elena was very impressive. When she entered Elena's office, she was very different. Elena Hanım, I've really changed. For the last month, I've been talking to different people every day, listening to their stories. Elena asked curiously, "What have you discovered?" Victoria told with sparkling eyes, "Everyone has very special stories. The taxi driver has 3 children. He's trying to educate them all. The cashier girl's father is sick. She's trying to earn money for his treatment. The doorman uncle's grandson got into university. He's so happy." Elena smiled with satisfaction. "That's it. When you get to know people, your behavior toward them changes." When Victoria started work, she created a revolution in the customer service department. Her way of talking to complaining passengers was very different. "I understand you. You're very angry. I used to think like you too. But I realized that our personnel really do their best. Let's find a solution together." Victoria's change showed itself not only in business life, but also in her private life. She became friends with neighbors she had never talked to before. To doorman Uncle Hasan, "Uncle Hasan, how is your wife? I heard she's going to have surgery." To cleaning lady Aunt Hatice, "Aunt Hatice, I bought a gift for your grandchild. She's a very smart child." Her neighbors were surprised. "Mrs. Victoria has changed a lot. She didn't even say hello before," they said. Victoria's conversation with her closest friend Celine was very meaningful. "Celine, I've lived very wrongly. Money doesn't make us happy. Human relationships do." Celine asked curiously, "How did this change happen?" Victoria told Elena's story, and Celine was very affected. "Victoria, you've really changed a lot. You're very different from before." Elena's story had attracted great interest worldwide. Harvard Business School invited her as a speaker. Offers came to do a TED Talk. Magazines like Forbes, Fortune, Business Week wanted to interview her. Some parts of Elena's speech at Harvard. Leadership is not controlling people. Leadership is understanding people and inspiring them. I'm a company owner, but I'm also a person first, and every person deserves respect. Success is not just making money. Success is being able to make the people around you happy. I can earn millions of dollars, but if my employees are unhappy, this is not success. In her TED Talk, she said, "That moment I experienced on the plane taught me a lot. I could have been angry with Victoria. I could have punished her, but I chose a different path. I showed understanding, and this changed both of us."
Elena's story attracted so much interest that many publishers wanted to write books with her. Elena decided to write a book called Lessons from the Sky, a CEO's story of humility. In the book's preface, she wrote, "This book is not just my story. This is the story of thousands of people working in the aviation industry. This is the story of millions of people serving every day. I hope with this book, people will learn to treat each other more respectfully."
1 year after Elena's story, very big changes had occurred.
Victoria's situation. Became customer service manager at Elena's company. Running a respect campaign on her own social media account. Visiting schools once a month to give respect education to children. Wrote her book, Change is Possible. Started charity activities. Elena's company. Passenger satisfaction increased to 98%. Staff turnover rate decreased to 5%. Won international aviation awards. Expanded to a fleet of 75 aircraft. Started flights to Europe. General change in the industry. More than 50 airline companies started respect programs. Mutual respect campaigns are being organized at airports. Elena's story is told in flight attendant training. Passenger complaints decreased by 30%. Great increases in personnel happiness surveys.
On the first anniversary of the story, Elena and Victoria came together. Both had changed a lot. Victoria said to Elena, "Elena, the greatest gift you gave me that day was the opportunity to know myself. I used to be a very unhappy person, but I wasn't aware of it." Elena replied, "Victoria, you taught me a lot too. Sometimes the most difficult people are those who need love the most." Victoria asked, "What do you think is the biggest message of this story to people?" Elena thought, "I think the message is this. None of us are perfect. We all make mistakes, but what's important is how we learn from these mistakes and how we try to become better people." What the story teaches. The most important lessons this story teaches us. Money doesn't bring happiness. Despite having a lot of money, Victoria was unhappy. Real happiness comes from human relationships. Respect is mutual. If we want to receive respect, we must first show respect. Everyone has a story. Before judging the person in front of us, we should try to understand their story. Change is possible. Victoria's change shows that people can change if they want to. Leadership is service. Elena's example shows that real leaders serve people. Humility is strength. Elena's working as a flight attendant despite being a CEO shows the power of humility. Second chances. Elena's giving Victoria a second chance shows that we all deserve second chances. Message for today. This story applies not only to the aviation industry, but to every area of our lives. In business life, let's show respect to our colleagues, those in lower and upper levels. In daily life, let's treat the cashier at the market, taxi driver, doorman kindly. In family relationships, let's show respect to the helper at home, children's teachers. On social media, instead of judging people, let's show understanding. Call to action for people. Call to everyone who watches this story. From tomorrow on, look at every person you encounter with different eyes. Don't forget that person has a story. Show respect to everyone, whether rich or poor, important or ordinary. If you are affected by this story, tell it to those around you too, because this world becomes a more beautiful place only when we show respect to each other. If you've made mistakes like Victoria, it's time to forgive yourself. If you have the chance to be a leader like Elena, use this power to serve people. Elena's final words on this subject. This story is not my story, it's all of our story. Because we encounter people every day. Every encounter can change each other. It can change for good, it can change for bad. The choice is ours. I'm an airline company owner, but my real job is not to transport people from one place to another. My real job is to bring people closer to each other, to spread love. If this story has touched even one person's life, it has achieved its purpose. Victoria's final words. I made very big mistakes, hurt many people, but Elena showed me that nothing is ever too late. It's possible to become a new person at 42. Now my goal is to transfer the love Elena showed me to others, because love multiplies when shared. The real impact of the story. This story continues in real life too. Elena's company is being exemplified worldwide. Victoria became a motivational speaker. The Elena model is being taught as a course in aviation schools. Victoria's book, Change is Possible, has been translated into 15 languages. Every year, October 15th is celebrated as Respect Day in aviation. If this story affected you, subscribe and turn on notifications because we'll continue sharing such stories. Hit the like button. Help this story reach more people. Share your own experiences in the comments. Have you ever encountered such a situation? How did you behave? Share this video with your friends because this message needs to spread. And remember, kindness is free. Arrogance is very expensive. Show respect to every person because everyone has a story. See you in the next video, and never forget, change is possible, but it must start from within.